My name is Neil Harrison. I'm the owner of Nelson's Gin. Nelson's Gin was set up about 4 years ago. It started off as a bit of a hobby and it's grown rather quickly into a large business. It took us about 4 years to get up and running, to get the still, get the premises, get all the licences from the government. So we've actually been trading for about 2 years now, and in that time we're growing about 50% every 6 months. Because I'm a chef, a lot of the botanicals that we're using in Nelson's are culinary botanicals as opposed to standard gin botanicals. So we use a lot of culinary herbs and spices. We use 27 different botanicals in Nelson's from all around the world, and it just makes our gin different to everybody else's.
Neil, who created the gin, decided to create something completely different to what else was out there in the market. So things like Albanian lavender we use, tonka beans, which is a very almondy, vanilla-y bean from Brazil, and 25 other very special ingredients that go into the product. It is a very complex gin. Got lots of flavours that come from it due to that. We're based in Uttoxeter in Staffordshire, which is on the Staffordshire-Derbyshire borders. That gives us a nice area to work in. We are classed as local for the Derbyshire and the Staffordshire counties. We source as much as we possibly can from the local area. Our bottles come from Wade Ceramics over in Stoke-on-Trent. The water that we source is on site here, just down the road. We've got a natural fed reed pond. The tonics that we use in our gin school, which are Franklin's tonic, which is based over in Chesterfield. The majority of our business at the moment is locally. I would say it's probably 85% within the central England and the Midlands area. We do have stockists and bars and restaurants over the whole country, but the majority of it is definitely from the Midlands. As you can see behind me, the way we actually make the gin takes a full day, so we prolong the process. It's a very slow process compared to other products, which creates a much smoother, much user-friendlier gin to drink compared to what people might have thought gin used to be like years ago.
We start with a neutral grain spirit, which is distilled for us by a firm in the West Midlands. So that comes in a big container. We then put that into the still, add our 27 botanicals. I only know 13, it's a secret, and Neil knows the rest. That goes into the pot. We then add our filtered water, and then we start the distillation process. There are 3 stages of the gin distilling process. The first stage are the heads, which are the volatile ethanol, which has lots of tannins and acids and isn't very nice to taste. So that is drained off, and we don't use that. And then once we have about 2 litres of that, we start to taste and smell the gin. And once we're happy with the flavour and the taste, that is then put into our main tank, and that becomes Nelson's Gin. At the end of that process, once the alcohol content drops and the flavour and the smell, they change quite a lot, and that's called the tails. That goes into a separate tank, and we reuse that as the basis for the next batch. Once we're happy with that, we have about 100 litres of 80% ABV gin, which is obviously too strong to consume. That goes into our blending tanks, which we then water down with our reed bed water, which goes through a reverse osmosis filter, so it's absolutely pure water, no flavour whatsoever. We blend to 3 strengths. We blend to Navy strength, which is 57%, the number 7, which is 42.5%, and then we use the number 7 to make our rhubarb and custard, which is at 41%. We make one type of gin, which is the number 7. It's the same recipe, but then we add a rhubarb flavour for the rhubarb and custard, which is a natural rhubarb extract oil, which was the best way that we found to keep the rhubarb flavour. It's a full strength gin, it's not a liqueur, no sugar is added to it. So you get it's a really ginny flavour as well as the rhubarb. And we're just about to go into production today of a Timor pepper, which has a grapefruit citrus flavour. And again, that's from the same recipe, but with a pepper oil that's added to it. So that's going to be something quite special.
The gin school experience is only one of 4 or 5 in the whole of the UK. It's where you come along and you can choose your own botanicals before you start, or you can bring your own botanicals with you. At the end of the day, you've created your own bottle of gin from scratch. So you use a mini copper still, which will distill the gin throughout the day. So you are using the traditional method, as in like behind me, the main still, but a smaller version. And it's just a very fun, informal, experience day. So it's a complete unique signature gin that no one else would have in the world, because it's your own recipe.
With regards to Nelson's Gin School, we find that we have people that come from all over the country, all with a shared passion or interest in gin, and so we find all age groups coming from all over the country really to share in the knowledge of gin making.
The new culture around gin has just gone crazy over the last sort of 5 to 6 years. Since a gin distillery in London called Sipsmith were the first ones to set up this craft small batch distillery for over the last 200 years, and since then more and more have opened all over the country. I think it's just about the experience of drinking lots and lots of different varieties of gin. Vodka's vodka. It's a bit like whiskey, I suppose. You get lots and lots of different varieties, different flavours coming through. And I think the reason that the gin boom has happened is down to that, plus the garnish that goes with it. Gin festivals popping up all over the place. It's a very sociable drink. People get together in their own homes now. Everybody brings a bottle of gin and talks about it and tastes it and discusses the differences of all the different varieties.
We've seen a massive upsurge in the interest of gin. Last year, something like 51 million bottles of gin were bought in this country. It surpassed the sales of both beer and wine. And because of that, we've obviously got this huge community of people that are drinking gin all over. One of the things that we find is that younger people are now getting into drinking gin, where it may have been the preserve in the past of ladies at lunch, shall we say, and having a gin and tonic before a meal. You're now finding that people of a younger age group are coming into it. The industry is a very diverse industry. It has people from different backgrounds. It's quite young, it's quite dynamic. I myself came from the music industry, and I liken it very much to the music industry in the way that all these independent distillers are like independent record labels. All their gins are like little bands. They are trying to get them into the chart, shall we say, or to get them recognized and known. And what you're finding is that there's a great deal of experimentation. There's a lot of passion within the industry, and a lot of shared knowledge.
I think the reason that gin is so popular now is that it's all completely different. There's not one gin that's the same as another, so there's bound to be some sort of gin that everyone's going to like. It's a social drink. It's with tonic. It's only as strong as drinking beer, so it's not going to kill you, which is always a bonus. But there's bound to be one gin that everybody likes. I mean, we do 6 different gins now, all different flavours, all completely different, and there's bound to be one that someone's going to like. So I think that's the culture of gin now. Is it's overtaken vodka, it's overtaken rum, it's overtaken tequila, it's outstripping everything. Gin's now on the GDP. It's that popular, which is a great thing. And growth looks like it's going to continue for the next 10 years, so long may it continue.